So my name is Paul Casada, and I'll be your facilitator for today's session or workshop. And also with me are Jamie Ream and Roger Strang. They're both waving hello, and they're going to be helping with answering questions and sharing resources in the chat. So thank you guys. And each of us are instructional designers with ATS, and we appreciate you joining us today for what we're calling Canvas Navigation Basics for Staff. And as part of this presentation, we're going to review some material as well as participate in a couple of activities. But I do want to start with our agenda for today. And we start with a bit of housekeeping. This is a recorded session and will be shared with you via email so you can revisit today's content. And included in this email will be any resources that we provide and share in the chat. Although we do suggest that you bookmark these web pages as we share them in the chat. Furthermore, throughout the presentation, we do welcome any questions you have and suggest that you enter them into the chat, and we'll be happy to help. And if you prefer to have a conversation or want to request a short demo, we ask that you wait until the Q&A portion where we'll have more time to discuss and review this material. As for content, this is an introduction and an overview of Canvas's two main navigation menus and is intended for beginners. But I think you'll find that this information can help significantly improve your navigation experience. And in bold text, underneath navigation overview, we see there is a global navigation and an organization level navigation menu. And we see that each section has their own activity. I'll go over these menus in detail in a moment, and along the way, I'll also make recommendations around navigation and account settings so that you and your organization members can be efficient and have a productive experience in Canvas. And because there are activities within Canvas that we're going to be participating in today, I ask that you have your browser open and access your respective Canvas account if you haven't already. That way you can follow along with some of today's information and put into practice some of the exercises we're going to be having today. And instructions will be provided as well. And after our second activity, I'll then go through a navigation demo where I review some features and tools that will help you more efficient at navigating and managing your Canvas account. And these are the dashboard management, the history navigation, the student view, as well as the redirect tool. So that'll all make sense as part of the demo at the end. And then we'll wrap things up with a Q&A where we'll have about 10 to 15 minutes, hopefully, where we'll encourage you to use this time for any clarifying questions or any additional demonstrations if you'd like to see anything I've reviewed today. And hopefully this all sounds good. And we are going to begin with the navigation overview. And before getting started, I do want to kick things off with a one-question poll and hopefully a bit of a discussion. So in a moment, I'm going to launch a poll. And the reason for this poll is because as staff, you're of course going to be using Canvas in a different capacity from faculty. So I want to take a moment to hear about how often you're accessing Canvas and the kinds of tasks that you'll be completing as you work in this platform or working within Canvas. So I'm going to launch this poll question. And you'll see that it reads, how often will you be accessing Canvas? Now, it may be helpful to think of Beachboard instead of Canvas because we are in this transition period right now. So if it helps, think of Beachboard in this respect. Oh, and that should say monthly, not monthly. Okay, I'm seeing everyone's participated. Thank you. I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to share the results. Okay, and I see that there's kind of an even split between how the frequency that you'll be accessing Canvas, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, or rarely. However often you're accessing it, the point of this presentation is to help you be efficient in managing your time when you're in Canvas. So I do appreciate everyone sharing, again, your frequency in using Canvas or how often you anticipate being in this platform. And along those lines, for those maybe who access Beachboard or Canvas very frequently, if anyone would like to share, I'd like to hear the kinds of tasks that you'll be completing in either Beachboard and Canvas. So would anyone like to share the kinds of responsibilities that you'll be managing as part of the Canvas experience? And you can just feel free to unmute and kind of speak to your experience. Any brave souls?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. So right now we use Beachboard as kind of an infrastructure for student staff. So we, we plan on using Canvas for a lot of same reasons we're using Beachboard to help and facilitate trainings, especially ones that are more like asynchronous and synchronous. We also use Beachboard and I guess Canvas soon to like collect timesheets and other materials that they have to upload as part of their job, as well as like provide feedback. I work with supplemental instruction, so our folks are uploading lesson plans and activities, and then we give feedback on what they're doing with their students. So a little bit of a feedback like kind of process too.
Very cool. Yeah, I like the use of the Canvas that way. Sounds like it's very open, and it sounds like there's even an opportunity for them to provide feedback. I heard you mention,
Mhm.
so I think that's great. Um, and yeah, you'll find that. I mean, although Canvas is a learning management system, so this is something that faculty are also using. You'll find that as staff, in the capacity that you're using it to manage organizations, you'll use very much the same tools. You're going to use it very much in the same way, obviously for different purposes. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. And would anyone else like to share maybe how you're using Canvas or Beachboard, maybe to manage an organization or disseminate information? Um,
We have a comment in the chat,
oh,
Paul,
thank you.
from Stephanie. She says, setting up exams, including with special access, creating discussion spaces, Dropbox folders, and adding general context. And we also have another one from Shreya, weekly quizzes, assignments, Dropboxes, class announcements, and posting notes.
Okay, yeah, very cool. It sounds like very much like the way you would run a course. It's very similar to the way this organization is being managed. So yeah, across the board, you're going to be using, it sounds like just about every tool we're going to be going over today as well. So very good. Thank you for sharing. And so that, with that, I'm now going to move into the first global navigation menu and the organization navigation menu. And we begin with menus because these are the primary elements that you're going to be using most within Canvas to get around. So it's important to know how to efficiently manage or navigate the interface. So when you first log in, the menu that you'll see from the dashboard is called the Global Navigation menu. That's the one on the left. This is a fixed menu and is always available. It does provide management functions related to your account level settings that are beyond any one course or organization. So you can think of this as the primary menu. And then after you access an organization or a course from your dashboard, you're presented with an additional interface that we call the course or organization navigation menu. This menu, the one on the right, can be customized to show up. Sorry, so it can be customized according to your organization needs, and it'll only show up when you're actively in that specific course or organization, and it'll display next to the global navigation menu. So you can think of this as the secondary menu, but more on course or organization navigation menu a little later in the presentation. So we're going to start with the global navigation menu. And again, this is something that's always going to be located on the left, the far hand side, or the far left-hand side of your browser when you're accessing Canvas from a desktop computer. And if you're on a mobile app, you can also invoke this menu at any time wherever you are in the application. So it's available no matter what device you're using. But for presentation purposes, we are going to focus on the desktop experience. And next, I'm going to review the basic functions of this global navigation menu that we're looking at. And if you'd also like to watch a video on the navigation interface, provided in the chat is an overview of these menus. So if you want to learn more, there is a video that provides another highlight that you can watch later. But looking to the global navigation menu on the left, I first want to point out how most of you as faculty or staff, depending on your role, you are going to have these 10 functions that we're looking at. Some of you will have more depending on your role or less depending on the tool usage within Canvas. But starting at the very top, this doesn't have an arrow or it doesn't have a call out, but I want to start at the very top with the CSULB logo. Because if you click on this, this will actually redirect you back to the dashboard. So you can think of this as it doubles as an account homepage button. So again, that's the CSULB above account. So if you click on that, it does take you back to the dashboard. So again, it just doubles as that button. So it does do something. But next, looking to account, this is an area that you'll want to visit right away to confirm your profile information, adjust notifications, and enable certain account settings. And I'll discuss this further in the next few slides. As for the next function, you'll notice that I have an additional item or option called admin. You may not have this option, but depending on your role, if you're a department coordinator or support staff, some of you may have this option, which allows you to assist the college with maybe assigning courses or those kinds of responsibilities in terms of the department course management. However, if you don't have the admin button, you will have access to the remaining 9 functions, and these are likely tools and functions that you're going to be accessing regularly. So following the admin function, underneath that is where you'll find the dashboard. And here is where you'll locate all your current organizations and courses, whether they're published or not. And you can get a bird's eye view of all the recent activity and notifications that's taking place within all your courses that you have access to. I'm going to be reviewing the different types of dashboard options as part of the demo. And then following that, we have courses, which naturally lists every organization or course that you're assigned to. And this tool also allows you to manage your course favorites. In my experience, this is an underutilized function, and this is something I'll also go over during the demo. Now, an option that you may not see is the groups tool. So this allows you to manage any existing groups across your organizations or courses. And even provides a working space for anyone who is a member of that group. So it allows members to participate in discussions, to collaborate as part of that group membership. But if you're not using the groups tool as part of any course or organization, the group option will not populate. So if you don't see groups, that's perfectly normal. You should expect not to see it if you're not using groups. So I just want to make that clear. Next is the calendar tool, and here you can review. Here you can view any existing scheduled activities, and you can even create new events and assignments on the fly. Then we have the inbox, where you and your organization members can communicate either one-on-one or as a group, and displays more like a functional mailbox. And you even have access to a sent folder, and you can separate all messages by organization. So it's a convenient way to separate out those messages specific to any one course or organization. And this feature alone, I think the inbox tool is, if you've used Beachboard mailing quite a bit as part of your management, you'll find that the inbox tool is much more intuitive and more robust in terms of messaging. So hopefully that's something that'll be your experience as well. We also have history, which I think is an underrated tool because it allows you to quickly access recently visited areas in Canvas, and it serves as a helpful shortcut. It provides, I believe, up to the last 13 locations that you've been in Canvas. So if there's somewhere that you want to go back to, rather than relying on the back button so much, you can use the history button. And that's something I'll also be visiting as part of the demo. And then on number 8 here is My Media. This option provides access to your video content, and this now includes Zoom recordings that you've saved to the cloud, which is a very convenient feature because this means you no longer have to download something from Zoom and then upload it into your course or organization. It's all streamlined now, so your My Media will by default have anything you save to the cloud in this space. So hopefully that's a huge time saver for everyone if you've relied on video quite a bit. And next is Commons. This is a really interesting tool and feature, especially at the department level, if you want to manage the way content is provided throughout your college. So Commons is a shared repository of content. So here you can share material, whether it's an entire organization or a certain module. You can publish it to the Commons. That way it's made available to anyone else who has access to Canvas in our environment. So if you want to share something so that it's a college-wide resource that you want to share to everyone, you can publish it to the Commons and then communicate it so that they know where they can find it and fish it out themselves. And then lastly, there's the help button. This offers different support options to students and faculty and staff, and it's even a dynamic menu. So based on where you are in Canvas, when you click on help, the options it provides will adapt to the area that you're in Canvas. So if you're looking for clarification on something and you're somewhere in Canvas that you'd like to learn more about, click on the help button and you'll find relevant, helpful guides in that area. So I know that's a quick overview of all the global navigation options, but I do want to emphasize how Canvas provides a dedicated guide for each of these tools within Canvas on this global navigation menu. So if you'd like to explore these items further, because each tool there's a lot of depth, as you can imagine, to each tool. So if you'd like to learn more about these options and how you can utilize them as part of your management of organizations, I'd recommend accessing the Canvas guides. And so that's something we're going to share in the chat. You may want to bookmark this. It's going to be a helpful resource down the line if you, again, want to look more into a certain tool. But okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide. Okay, and the first area I want to visit here is the account. So as I mentioned, when you access account, this is the first area you want to visit from the global navigation menu, because if you haven't already, because you'll find a lot of information that you'll be able to set up once. Sorry, let me start over. So as I mentioned, account is the first option from the global navigation menu. And this is an area that you'll want to visit first if you haven't already. The good news here is that once you review and set up this preference, you won't need to return to change them often, unless you want to make changes moving forward. And I also want to note that the various settings you establish here at the account level will be consistent across all your organizations and courses, no matter which device you're using. So these are settings that will save and will continue to be your Canvas experience all throughout. And while there are several options here, I think the three most important that I want to review as part of our workshop today to help you get started especially are the notifications, the profile, and the settings. And I'm going to start with settings. So when you first open settings, you'll see most of your information is already listed. It's pre-populated, and that's because this information is all managed by a data feed that updates overnight. So we do encourage you to review this information should you need to update anything, such as your preferred email or perhaps a preferred name or an email alias if you have something different you'd like to go by. This is all something that the university can accommodate, of course, and so you want to just make sure that it matches according to your preference within the settings page. And if you do find something that's maybe inconsistent, or a name or an email that you'd like to change, an email alias in particular, you can contact the Technology Help Desk. I've included their email there at the bottom. That's helpdesk@csulb.edu. And again, that's on the chance you need to update any of this personal information. It's also here in settings that you can manage your contact information by adding another email address. You see on the right, by default, you'll have your @CSULB email, but say you don't check it, or you like to have your Yahoo, Gmail, anything, your personal email as a part of this as well. You can certainly include that by clicking add email address. You can even include your phone number if you're so inclined to get text notifications about what's going on. All of that can be managed here. Also available when you click on edit settings, you can manage your preferred pronouns, system language, and even the time zone that you're in. So that's what you can expect to find in settings. Also available within settings are additional account level features that you and your organization members may find helpful when they're enabled. Some of these are off by default. So I would encourage you to, when you're visiting settings, that you scroll down to the bottom and that you look at these features. You'll see from the image here on the right, there's a check mark for those that are turned on and an X for those that are off. Again, by default, I believe these are all turned off. But you'll want to visit these features within your account level or within your settings of your account, because you may find some of these helpful when they are enabled. Some of the features that are included or that you can enable as part of your Canvas experience, and some that I would recommend anyway that you enable, are some such as auto show closed captions. This is for video, any media that's a part of the organization. You can also enable high contrast for any colorblind users. I myself am colorblind. I'm red, green, cone colorblind. So high contrast can be really helpful. There's also the Microsoft Immersive Reader. This is a text-to-speech technology, which can make it really easy to listen to a lot of text-heavy material, perhaps, on your organization. And there's another that's not in the screenshot, but it reads underlined links. That's something that I find particularly helpful. Anytime there's a link, a resource, a hyperlink that can take you somewhere else, Canvas knows to underline it because it communicates to your members that this is something you can interact with. So these are just some of the suggestions I would make anyway in terms of features to enable within your account settings. There are others, of course, and I'd recommend exploring or experimenting with some of them, again, just to customize and really personalize your Canvas experience. Okay, and I'm going to move on to notification settings. And this is also a really important one because dependent on how you're using Canvas, whether it's in a course or an organization, the tools that you're using will help drive the usage and the way that the members will be able to be made aware of what's going on. So it's important to manage or to select the kinds of notifications that you like, because these can easily get out of hand. You can get emails for just about everything that takes place in Canvas. So I would recommend visiting notifications, and that's something we're going to do in a little bit. We're going to go into notifications. You can opt in for getting emails for lots of activities such as due dates, course content, announcements, submissions like Dropbox submissions, discussions, any email conversations that are taking place, etc. Anything that you can imagine, you can receive a notification for. So it's a pretty granular tool. And for that reason, we recommend visiting and spending some time here so that you can really fine tune the way you're using Canvas so that it matches your experience and what it is you'd like to be on top of or stay on top of in terms of notifications. And in terms of frequency, you'll be able to choose if you get those email notifications or these alerts, whether daily, weekly, as a summary, or just turn them off altogether. So there's a couple options here. And again, that's why I was asking how often you'll be accessing Canvas, because then that gives you an idea of how often you're going to receive these notifications as well. So notifications, again, is pretty granular. So we are going to share another resource in the chat for how to manage notifications, whether you're an instructor, staff, or even student. This is a helpful resource that hopefully you can learn something from if you want to, again, better understand how to manage notifications. Okay, and then after updating your profile and notification, or your account and notification settings, it's strongly suggested that you also update your profile. Oh, sorry. And here's where you can upload a profile picture. You can include a short bio about yourself and things that you'd like maybe other organization members to know about you. You can include information about your history here at CSULB, your professional background, your teaching philosophy, if you're an instructor, or anything you'd like to share, right? Or your office hours, your availability. These are all, again, this is all information you can choose to include as part of your profile. And as part of your profile, you can also include links to any professional resources that you manage. And again, this is just to have that available on your profile page. And again, that's just a suggestion. So we've looked at settings, notifications, and profile. And as part of this activity here, I did ask that everyone, if you can access your own Canvas account, we are going to have you're going to have some time now. So I've carved out some time so that you can spend time looking at settings, notifications, and your profile. So we're going to spend the next 5 minutes looking at this information and reviewing these, again, this information. And so once you're done, or if you're just not participating, you can either check in the chat, let us know, and I'll be monitoring the chat. I'm going to have that open. So if you're ready to move on, just feel free to say you're done, or maybe you're not participating. But I do want to, again, spend a few minutes to allow those who want to review these areas So I'm going to go on mute here for a moment. And again, use this time to use the next, I'll check in at 11:30. So let's say 4 minutes. So go ahead and review these areas and yeah, again, customize, play around with, and personalize it. All right, and we just visited the global navigation menu, and we're going to switch gears now over to the organization, or what can also be called the course level navigation menu. And if you'll recall, this navigation menu only shows up when you're actively managing a course or an organization, and it will display to the right of the global navigation menu. Come on. And the great thing about this organization level navigation menu is the amount of control that you have in terms of what to include and how to prioritize and sequence the functions that are available within your organization. So where the global navigation menu is fixed, you can't customize, you can't change or modify it. At the organization level, you can. So we do recommend that you take some time to customize this layout. The options that are listed here on the left, that's what would be considered the instructor or the staff view, are just some of the popular functions that are available on the menu, but there are plenty others, and you can even include your own resource or link that you'd like to include as part of the organization. And there are also differences between what is visible to organization members and what is visible to you as a manager of an organization within Canvas. So you notice on the image to the left, there are a couple icons as a call out. There's like an eye with a slash over it. That means that while it's visible to you, it's not visible to organization members. So that's something you want to keep in mind. And so on the right, you'll see that that's what it looks like from the student view. Those are options that are obviously missing. So I just wanted to point out the distinction between what is available for you isn't always available for your organization members. And so again, to highlight that difference, we have those two images. And you'll also notice that the profile picture is removed and that there's now a pink banner at the bottom. It is cropped, so it's cut out quite a bit. But at the bottom, anytime you're in student view, it will tell you that you are in student view. And actually, sorry, that student view is something I'm going to get into a little later. I made a comment about that, but that's something I'll demonstrate during the demo. Now, a comment that I wanted to make, though, is that although these functions can be invisible, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are inaccessible to organization members. They just wouldn't be accessible from the navigation menu. So, for example, if you make pages invisible in the course navigation or the organization navigation menu, but you add a page to a module, your organization members will still be able to access that page. They just won't be able to see all pages from the navigation menu. So I just want to make that distinction that you can still make resources available as part of that tool, available without making it visible. So that's just some nuance there. But next, I do want to review how to make different functions accessible in the navigation menu. So like I mentioned, this course navigation or the organization navigation menu, you can customize. And there is a resource we want to share as well as part of how to manage your navigation links. So that's something you'll see in the chat as a resource. But I do have a couple screenshots for how that would look like. So in order to change what is available to your organization members from this organization navigation menu, you'll first need to access an existing organization, of course. You'll then click on the settings option. That's always going to be at the bottom by default. And when you select settings, you'll then by default be taken over into course details. You'll see there's a series of tabs at the top, and you want to move over to navigation. So when you move over to navigation, this is where you'll be able to drag and drop the different options. So let me just, yeah. So within navigation, you'll see that there's two sections. The items above here where you find home, modules, quizzes, and grades. These are options that are available and visible to your organization members. The rest have that icon because they are hidden. And so if you'd like to make them available or make them visible, you can simply drag and drop them from the hidden section to the visible section. So as we can see here, you'll want to just move them from one to the other. And so once you've done that, you want to click Save, that's at the bottom, and then that'll apply that change that you've made. And that's how you would customize this navigation menu. Now, the bottom, okay. Okay, so yeah, and again, that's just to recap, that's how you manage or customize the navigation menu. Now, there is also an option to include an external resource, so something that isn't native to Canvas as part of your navigation menu. That's something I'm going to go over as part of the demo. But let's say that there's a resource that you rely on as part of your organization that doesn't exist in Canvas because it's an external resource, and you'd like to have a prominent location for this resource. So you can include that as part of the navigation menu using a redirect tool, but I'm going to go over that as part of the demo. But I just want to bring that up now, and I'll revisit that later. But the next thing I want to cover also has to do with, it's also within settings of your organization. And this recommendation that that we're looking at here in terms of the settings for this organization has to do with announcements. So again, when you click on settings at the bottom, under course details this time, so the first tab that you're on, you'll want to scroll to the bottom, and there's fewer options. It'll say more options first. So you'll click more options, it'll expand, and then it changes to fewer options. But then underneath, you'll have this checkbox that allows to or enables to show recent announcements as part of the organization on the homepage. And I think what's important about this function, especially as an organization, is when you have organizations with huge membership. I know some organizations run into hundreds of members, especially with students, if they're program specific or college specific. There's a lot of information sometimes to manage as part of these organizations. And so it could be helpful to have announcements at the top of your organization so that students always know to visit that area so that they can more quickly see what's going on, like what's the latest, what is it that's being shared. Maybe there's a workshop, there's an event, there's something that you want them to know. And so I'd recommend anyway that you enable the announcements tool within your organization so that if you're using the announcements tool, again, your members can benefit or leverage that information. Okay, and okay, this is again another opportunity for you to visit and explore the course or organization level navigation. So I would recommend here to again take some time to review the settings, adjust the options that you have available as part of your organization, maybe make visible or invisible some options that you won't be using. It'll really make it easier for those members who are accessing your organization on a daily basis so that they're not looking at more options than they really need to. So again, this is part of the activity. So we're going to spend a couple minutes. I'll check in at 11:43, 44. And again, just spend some time looking at your course level settings, and then also consider enabling the announcements tool as part of your organization. So yeah, please take a couple minutes to do that now. Awesome. Okay, sounds good. Thank you. All right, so I'm next going to spend a couple minutes doing the demo, as I mentioned. So I'm going to review 4 different areas as part of Canvas navigation. I'm going to switch to my browser really quickly here. Okay, we should see my dashboard now. And the first thing I want to do actually is go into a specific organization, actually, or course. I'm going to go into my sandbox. And the first thing I want to review is how to add another option on the navigation side of the course navigation. So as I mentioned, there is an option to include external resources. So, something that's not native to Canvas. So if you'd like to add another resource to this navigation that isn't, again, available in Canvas, you're going to go into Apps, So you're going to move into settings at the bottom, move into apps at the top, and then there's a redirect tool. So here you're going to select the redirect tool. It isn't already installed. And oh, I think I'd go into navigation instead. Oh, one moment. I'm drawing a blank right now. Roger or Jamie, where would I go in to enter the URL for this particular tool? Wherever you're. So select area, select you.
Give me a second.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I should have, and apologies, I should have reviewed this also as well, because I know there's, but again, the redirect tool, the intent of it anyway is to make any resources that are external to Canvas so that you can add them or include them on this navigation. So it is telling us here that to configure this app and specify the text and the URL, we'd like to check the areas. We have to make sure it's installed at the root level. It is installed already.
Also, if you click Add App.
Thank you, Roger. Okay. And of course, that's what it was. It's the button underneath it. So when you click on Add App, by default, the text will read a redirect tool. But you can have it say anything, right? So that way it's more specific or content specific to what it is, the resource that you're sharing. And so, for example, if say you have maybe just a YouTube video or something that you want to share, I mean, maybe not the most efficient thing to share as a redirect, but it's just what I had open here. Or actually, there's another web page. I think this is more appropriate. This is a ReadSpeaker, a tool web page that we have available on campus. And so if you just want to add prominence to this resource, you want to add it as part of the navigation side of things. So I would call this ReadSpeaker. Oh, and that's audio that's playing. Okay, hopefully you didn't, I don't think you heard that, but back to the redirect tool. When we're adding this, you'll want to specify the name and then the URL. You'll just want to copy and paste that URL into the URL redirect. You can even designate the way it behaves, whether it opens in a new tab. This is for external links only, and that's always best practice for external resources. So always leave that checked in, or checked rather. And then this is something where you have the option now to show at the course navigation. And it looks like we can even show in the account navigation. That's interesting. Let me just do the course navigation for now. So I'm going to add app. And having done that, we should now see on the left-hand side, let me go into navigation. We should find the option for ReadSpeaker as I've titled it. And I don't see it. Give me a second. Let's try this again. And I think, okay, let me edit this. Let's show the course navigation. And let's do the user navigation as well. And I'm curious, just maybe for my own sake here, I'm going to add to all of them. And let me refresh. And I think that's what I was missing. I just didn't refresh. So as we can see now on the left-hand side, ReadSpeaker is available twice. Again, that's just duplication because I did it twice. And we would also be able to manage that as well from navigation. So we'd be able to remove it from navigation. We would disable, which again makes it invisible or removes it from the navigation. So hopefully this is helpful that you can, again, add prominence to a resource on the navigation side. So that's the first thing I wanted to cover. The other thing I want to look at is the dashboard. Looking at the dashboard, I mentioned there's a couple of layouts or different views that you have available to you. And what you will see, and also if you have any invitations into an organization, or this is what your members will see too, if you're inviting them to an organization, you'll see this accept or decline option at the top. That's just what it'll look like from the dashboard if you have an invitation pending. But from the dashboard, in order to change the layout of the kind of information you have access to from the dashboard, you'll click on the three dots all the way to the right of the word dashboard here. And then you'll select between the different views. So this is card view, that's the default. If you move into list view, you'll see the activity that's taking place, whether it's an announcement, a calendar event, an assignment, anything that's, again, any activity that's taking place will be listed here in list order. And you can even access all notifications from the bell. You can dismiss. These are just, again, giving you a quick glance of what's going on. So that's the list view. And then there's also recent activity, which is a little more granular in terms of the types of activity, or the way it groups them, I should say. So it groups the types of activities that are taking place. So by announcements, by conversations and messages. And I have a message right now in my own inbox. So you'll see there's a little number here to visually let me know that there's a message there. And it even tells you, it groups the organizations or the courses that this activity can be found in. So for example, the assignment notifications here are grouped by these organizations where it applies. So it's trying to conveniently and quickly, again, show you what's going on in Canvas from your dashboard. So I'm going to switch back to card view. And another thing that you can do in order to manage, or to better manage your dashboard, especially as staff, if you're managing a lot of organizations, your dashboard can get cluttered, for lack of a better word. So if you really want to manage only those organizations that you're accessing frequently, but you're also part of other organizations that you're maybe not accessing so frequently, what you would do is click on courses. And here you're going to find your published and even unpublished courses. But even more helpful is going to all courses. And when you do that, you're going to see a list of all courses that you're a part of, whether you're, again, visiting these as frequently as you are others. What you can do is manage these by favorites. So that's what I've done. I've taken the opportunity to select those that I access most frequently. And so I've starred those, and only by starring them, these are the only organizations that will show up on my dashboard. So if I were to uncheck just leave the default view, I would have this many more courses as part of my dashboard view. And because I'm not always accessing those, I'm not starring all of them. So I'm only starring those that I'm, again, seeing more or visiting more often. So when I click on dashboard, it filters out, again, by frequency. And so that's how you would manage your dashboard as well. And then another thing I want to look at is, really quickly, the student view. So from the home, from your organization, if you want to get an idea of what your members are going to see and how that looks like for them from their perspective or their point of view, you would click on student view on the upper right hand corner. Doing that, again, will bring up that pink banner at the bottom. It lets you know that you're in a student view, and you're now looking at it from that perspective. And in comparison from Beachboard to Canvas, Canvas has a much more true student experience. You can even submit assignments. You can grade those assignments, those submissions. You weren't able to do that in Beachboard before. You needed to have a separate account to really test a student experience. But Canvas is a lot more robust in that fashion. So the student view is true to a student experience. So that's something you might want to look at if you want to just make sure things look okay, because things could look good on your end. But again, just to confirm, it looks good on the student end as well. And then you can leave the student view, and you can even reset the student view. Say you've submitted a couple test assignments or discussions, anything, you can reset that information. That's available there. So I'm going to leave student view. And then the last thing I want to review or go over is, and this is just actually kind of a segue to another presentation or workshop that we have coming up. Just this week, or last week rather, I saw an organization that was moved over to Canvas, and they were doing something really interesting because they went into the people tool, and this organization was managed by, it was comprised of undergrad and graduate students. And so what this organization did was it created a group for undergrad and graduate students, and they would allow the members to self-enroll into these groups. So whatever's applicable to them, whether they're undergrad or graduate student, of course. And when they enroll in these groups, you can now make submission. The content that they're having access to is based off of the role. So maybe there's a graduate workshop that's taking place for, a workshop for graduate students that's taking place. You can make an announcement and assign it specifically only to those who are in that group, who are graduate students. That way the content is specific to, their needs within that organization. So I only mention this because as we're moving over to Canvas, there are many different ways that you can manage the organization and your members. And I just thought that was a really interesting way to manage members within a single organization so that the experience adapts to their own role. So I thought that was pretty neat. Now, the reason I also brought that up is because I'm going to review some of our future workshops. So I'm going to come back to our slides here. And we are just about wrapping up here. I finished the demo here. And so these are just some upcoming workshops for staff as well. Again, these are staff-specific workshops, but you're more than welcome to join all of our workshops taking place as part of Canvas or our transition to Canvas. But as you can see, these anyway that are coming up, we'll review media space a little more in depth and how to manage video content. There's a lot of collaboration tools that exist within Canvas that we'll review on September 28th. And then this third workshop is for how to some best practices for managing an organization within Canvas. And so that's why I wanted to bring up just some of the ways that other organizations are being managed in Canvas so far. And hopefully you'll get some ideas about how to do that for your own organization. And with that, I'm going to just quickly mention some resources as part of ATS in supporting Canvas. We have our Canvas support website, we have our Canvas guides, and our virtual room support. These are all resources, some of which we've already shared, but other resources we'll share in the chat. If you haven't visited or accessed any of these, we'd strongly encourage you to. There's a lot of information available, and ATS, of course, is going to help you make this transition to Canvas. And with that, I want to now take a couple minutes. There is an evaluation survey that's going to be shared in the chat as well. So I am going to ask if you could take the time to select that link, provide any feedback for this workshop. We are always interested in improving these workshops based off of your input. So we'd appreciate any comments that you have to make.